Well, since you guys liked the last video so much, it's time to take a second dive back into my wonderful passion project here. I'm going to give you all a tour into the combat system I've been trying to develop. If you haven't seen that first video, I implore you to check that out now in the top right corner. But if you've already seen it, or just don't want to, you can stay right here and listen to Chapter 2, Combat. Combat is a precious and delicate thing, despite the volatile nature of it. When designing a combat system, specifically one between players, it's important to nail the fragile balance between fun and fairness. If it tips too far in either direction, then things fall apart very quickly. Since the combat between players is imperative to the foundations of this server, I need to make sure I get this right. So I organized a small arena to test the combat to ensure perfection. After the dust had settled and the smoke cleared, I have a champion to crown. Congratulations, Frogmaster 9000. Your valiant efforts are recognized, but most importantly, I have more information to work with now. Here's what I learned. The most important part of a combat system is whether or not it's fun. If your combat system stinks, then no one plays it and the server dies. So I need to make sure it feels good to move around, attack, cast spells, and be visually appealing as well. But that's for single-player combat. The fun is all you have to worry about there. What I'm worried about is the multiplayer combat. This means you'll also have to factor in how fair the combat is, or else people die to stupid stuff, it's not fun anymore, and your server dies. Think about it. Did any enemy you ever fought in a game ever really stand a chance? The most terrifying and powerful enemy you could have fought is another player, because they have the exact same fair game as you, and that's what makes combat so interesting, because you actually don't know who's gonna come out on top. That suspense is imperative for making an interesting story. So, what do we focus on in order to balance those two super important building blocks? The skill curve. The only way to make it truly fair is to make it so that any opponent can technically be beaten if you were just skilled enough. Take Elden Ring, for example, and the hardest boss in the genre, Malenia. Malenia proved quite the headache for many players, myself included. She's a tough cookie to beat even with the best gear in the game, but for those familiar with the game, surely you've heard of the crackhead player Let Me Solo Her, who struts into that arena naked with a pot on his head and wins every time. He's so good at the game that he doesn't need armor because, well, why wear armor if you don't plan on getting hit? Now, obviously, this is a one-in-a-kind player, but the idea remains in making skill the most important contributor to your power. So, considering all of this, how am I going to apply it to my combat system? Well, by some luck of the draw, a lot of the mods I just threw together are actually quite good. The combat has great spectacles and complexities with a kit and a skill-heavy focus. I will perhaps have to tweak the damage and armor values of various items, but these are minor issues and easy to fix. However, the combat has been reported to feel frustrating at times due to the wind-up before an attack. It's jarring and difficult to work with when you're so used to the instant response Minecraft usually has. So with the power of data packs, I can remove this wind-up and fix this problem, perfecting my system at last. So I fired up the arena one more time and witnessed the finest clash of blades Minecraft has to offer. This time, Frogmaster 9000 and Do had a tie, and I received no further criticisms on my combat system, marking the first major pillar to my behemoth of a project. If you think you can find some flaws for me though, tell me in the comments, or join the Discord to test it yourself, and receive frequent updates on the server as well as participation in events like the arena shown today. See y'all later, folks.